Milk and ice cream is delicious, but you know what's even better? Mixing them together. But don't get a Popeye special down at your local crime-riddled bar.
Anybody want a milkshake?
Come on down to Jackrabbit Slims and get your $5 Martin and Lewis milkshake today.
That's a shake. That's milk and ice cream.
Last I heard.
That's $5. You don't put bourbon in or nothing?
No.
Just checking.
As a reminder, just quickly please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like. Just quick press pause, leave the rating, then come back and hit play. Thanks in advance. All right, now on with the show.
Lights, camera, action.
And the winner is...
Welcome back to the Oscar Reel Movie Podcast, the OG of the channel that we have going on with like 3 or 4 different shows. I don't know if people are liking it or not, but it's given us a chance to put more episodes out, and some that are shorter, and it gives us more time to watch the movies for this longer episode.
I've had a lot of fun with it, so I hope people are enjoying it.
They better be, because if you're not, then you're stupid.
Let's not insult the listeners, the 4 that we have.
Except for the one listener out there, you know you're dumb.
Okay,
just saying things.
I know. What's on our schedule today?
Well, per usual, we'll start out with our usual segments, but the Oscar-winning movie we have today is from 1971. It's The French Connection, starring Gene Hackman. We'll go all through that later, but that won Best Picture 1971, and then our Oscar Real Justice, so, we like kind of going toe-to-toe with what we think was the runner-up for the Oscars that year. This time it'll be A Clockwork Orange, which we'll have a full review for that later on in the week with our scores and everything. Today we'll talk about it a little bit, but if you want more in-depth about what that movie's about, look for our full classic review of that later on in the week. So yeah, that's and then we have a top 5 later on. It's either... Do we decide on car chases?
Car chases. Better be. I worked very hard on this. So if we end up doing something different, then I'll just quit that part.
Just walk out the door and
leave.
then they'll just listen to me talk for 5 or 10 minutes. So maybe that's what they want.
That's
Is
what
that what
you
the
do
listeners
anyway.
want? Okay. We got to give the people what they want. So it'll be car chases because The French Connection, one of the well-known scenes of that movie is the car chase that happens in it. So why not do a top 5 of film car chases? So that'll be at the end. So yeah, to open it up, we got our usual what we've been watching, reading, or whatever. I don't know. We should just take the reading part out because unless I talk about comics, I mean, we're in a world...
I've got something that I've been reading, so don't take this away from me.
That's good. This was the last chance for reading, so otherwise it was going to get cut. Because in a world where we're just inside all the time, I feel like I haven't been reading, so I kind of feel bad about that. But okay, you go first. What have you been watching, reading, or whatever, while I tell this dog to stop chewing on his bone?
So, I started a book. Finally, I started reading again. A book that your brother got me for Christmas, actually, is called Gods of Jade and Shadow, and it's by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And it follows this young woman in Mexico in like the 1920s. Her name is Cassiopeia, which is kind of cool. And like the constellation. Yes, exactly. And so it's kind of a modern day fairy tale, but with like ancient like Mexican culture and stuff. So like she ends up bringing like a god back to life from like ancient civilizations and stuff. So it's kind of cool. It's I don't usually read too many books that are in that kind of like fantasy. I mean, it's not like Lord of the Rings type fantasy, but it is a little bit more like mythological based than I probably usually read, but it's been really good so far. So I've been reading that. And then something that I've been watching. I think I watched it all last week. It's just 10 episodes, like 20, 25 minutes each. A new show created by Mindy Kaling. It's called Never Have I Ever. And it follows this main character. Her name is Davy, and it's about like her life and her friends in like their sophomore year in high school. And it's super witty. It's like the characters are super believable. It gets a little over the top sometimes, but it's super funny. It's got a great narrator. I told you about that a little bit, but please check it out. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I've watched a little bit with you. Yeah, the little bits I saw was very funny.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, really good. I mean, there were so many moments where like I just bust out laughing. It just like some of the humor kind of reminded me of like Parks and Rec or something like that. Like it's got some witty humor in it, which I always enjoy. So
Nice.
That's been fun.
Nice. I have been watching like stuff for other like episodes or shows of this channel now, like Drunken Master, Jackie Chan from '94. So hopefully a show about that will be coming up soon. I watched the friggin' Star Wars Holiday Special, which
I watched, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes of that with you. It was
it's
some of the worst
horrible
stuff I've ever seen. It's so
fucking
bad.
terrible. It is some of the worst. And I said it, like, go back, listen, like, please listen to, like, my friend Quinn and I, like, we talked about that movie.
And watch the cool video that you made for it.
Yeah,
It's on
made a
YouTube.
video for
Really,
it
really
on
cool.
YouTube. So, yeah, watch it, check it out. Let us know if you want more stuff like that. But about good stuff, maybe, not trash, like the holiday special. Because it's amazing that was the first Star Wars content people got after the first movie.
It's
And
insane.
it's so bad.
It's so bad.
So anyways, I watched that. Really the only other thing, been watching the Mandalorian documentary that's been coming out on Disney Plus. They've only released 2 episodes of it. But that's fascinating. That's some of the good stuff compared to like the holiday special. The last episode is really interesting because Dave Filoni, who is the creator of the Clone Wars TV show and Rebels and a bunch of other stuff, he directed some of the episodes of The Mandalorian, so they talked to him a lot. And he broke down, I tweeted a clip of it out earlier today, he broke down the Duel of the Fates in a way that is just unbelievable.
And that's the lightsaber battle with Darth Maul in episode 1.
Yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan, I think you know. Yeah, Duel of the Fates, they named a song, like the song is called Duel of the Fates during that fight scene too. Yeah, it was just amazing. He went on like a 10-minute rant about, I say rant, but it was a good thing. Like, it was amazing to hear him talk about how that fight is called Duel of the Fates because literally the fate of Anakin Skywalker is like going to be affected by the winner, because Qui-Gon is really the only one who understands how to train and talk to Anakin. He's like the father figure Anakin never had. So if he wins, Anakin would have a positive outcome, but if he dies and loses, which ultimately what happens, then that's the start of Anakin's descent into the dark side. And it's nuts to hear him talk about it. I want him involved in every Star Wars content, like, moving forward ever, because I think he just gets it. Like, he just understands Star Wars.
Yeah.
And he's able to translate it and put it on screen or on film for like viewers like us to digest better than anyone else, maybe even better than George Lucas, because
I would agree with that.
Because George Lucas, like, he obviously understands Star Wars because he created it, but sometimes I felt like things got in the way for him, hence, like, the prequel trilogy isn't the best. I think it's aged probably better. People are being more nostalgic about it. But Dave Filoni is amazing, and he just needs to be involved, period, moving forward. So
they needed him on the holiday special.
yeah,
To
I
probably
don't even
just
know.
say, no, let's not do this.
Yeah, let's see. When was Dave Filoni born?
He had to have been around by then. He's not that young, right?
He was born in 1974, so they needed 4-year-old Dave Filoni on the set of Star Wars Holiday Special.
That might have worked. I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, he's
We'll
younger
never
than I
know.
expected. He looks older than that, but
Yeah,
maybe
so-
it's the weird cowboy hat. I don't know.
The cool cowboy hat.
It's kind of weird.
No, a grown man wearing a cowboy hat all the time is cool.
Indoors on
Yeah.
set of a Star Wars
Yes.
scene. Okay.
Anyways. So, moving on, that's all I had. So moving on to the trailer park. I've been worried about this segment because nothing is coming out, but
We actually have some stuff this
there's
week.
some actually new and relevant stuff going on. So first up, we've got the movie's called Becky. I did not know this movie existed or was a thing until I saw the trailer a couple days ago. So this is, let me bring up here. I thought it had more synopsis. This looks like an adult or gory version of Home Alone.
Ooh.
With Nazis, with a neo-Nazi.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, so it stars...
Because I can't figure out what this movie is trying to be.
So it stars Kevin James, Joel McHale, Lulu Wilson as the titular character, Becky. Kevin James, it opens with him. This is a jarring role for him. We're used to Kevin James and all the Adam Sandler movies where he's
King
hilarious
of Queens
and stuff.
Yeah.
This is him. It opens with him in jail, and you see the back of his head, and there's a swastika on it. He plays like a neo-Nazi who...
He escapes from prison, right?
Or is released
That's
or whatever, but yeah, he's outside of prison at some, most of the movie. Joel McHale is Becky's father, and they're up in like their cabin with apparently his girlfriend or something, and with Joel McHale has a girlfriend that Becky isn't happy about, I guess, and Kevin James is like looking for a key.
Yeah.
So he's like shows up at their place looking for it, and Becky apparently has it, and then it's like the rest of the trailer is like her doing like Home Alone type traps on them, but like gory, like hitting people in the face with a board that has nails sticking out of it and like stuff like that. So this I don't know. I'm leaning towards I'm not really excited about this movie. Mainly because I have this weird thing where like I don't like it when kids are being like realistically violent. Like
Yeah.
American Horror Story, the first season ends with this little kid murdering his nanny.
Yeah.
And I'm
it's
just
like a
nope.
baby.
Yeah, and I'm like, nope, don't like that. When it's Home Alone, where it's in a comedic fashion, where it's like, okay, this is funny and unrealistic, but in a world where we have like violence and like we don't need. And I'm not one of those people where I'm like, we need to shut video games out because they're too violent. I actually really like video games, and I think they help stimulate other parts of the brain. But I don't know if we need a movie that's about a little kid wanting to hurt adults and like doing it, because there's a scene where she tells Kevin James like, I want to hurt you bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if we need this right now. I don't know if I'm comfortable with having like this movie where like a little girl is like while they're bad people, like trying to hurt and kill adults.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What did you think of this?
Yeah. In a weird way, though, like, because I'm not sure what it's supposed... Like, is it thriller? Is it a horror? Like, is this some, like, made-up, like, subconscious? Like, I'm almost compelled to, like, find out what it's actually about, because I feel like I have so many questions about, like, what, why is he out of jail? Why is he looking for this key? Why does this girl, I mean, she's, I don't know, 15, 16 years old, maybe, I'm guessing?
I'd say
I don't
younger.
know.
I'd say younger than that. She looked like
it's
she
like
was 13.
like, how does she
Know
know
how to
any of
kill
this
people?
stuff? And it's just, like, it's weird. So I'm a little bit intrigued, but also scared. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
Like this thing... Yeah, like, it seems like in the trailer she has, like, this deep-seated desire to hurt and kill people. And then this movie, like, what happens, like, allows her to do that. And I just don't know if that's, like, the message we need.
Yeah.
Here's something for you. So, yeah, it was announced in July 2019. Kevin James had joined the cast of the film. You know who was originally supposed to play that role? I mean, you're not going to know, but I'm going to set you up for failure here. Do you know who was supposed to play it?
No idea.
Simon Pegg.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Simon Pegg was originally supposed to be in that role, but had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, it'll be really fascinating to see Kevin James in a very serious, like, very dark role.
I'm sure he'll be good in it. It's just a weird scene.
He
like,
looks creepy as hell, I'll say that.
Yeah, because like, I do think he's kind of like Adam Sandler. Like, I think he's a pretty good actor, but he just chooses to do these silly comedies. So I think he'd be good. I don't know. not too excited about this one, but we'll see. So yeah, what do we have next?
Next is you know what? I didn't even clarify if this is a TV show or a movie.
It's a TV show.
TV show. Okay. New TV show from Netflix called Space Force, and stars. See if I can remember some of these names. Steve Carell, Jane Lynch is in there. Ben Schwartz, Jean-Ralphio.
John Malkovich.
Yes, John Malkovich. Thank you. Number of other faces and names that you'd recognize, but it's about so Steve Carell is like, I don't know, part of the Air Force, military, whatever, and they have this proposal for him that, hey, let's militarize our satellites because that's how we monitor internet trafficking and stuff. So it's kind of like this look at how ridiculous it is.
Yeah. Here's the Space Force is a workplace comedy. I know they advertise it as like creators of the Office. Centers on a group of people tasked with establishing the 6th branch of the United States Armed Forces, the United States Space Force. Just the title of this doesn't bring me in, but watching the trailer, I was a little more on board with it. Mm-hmm. Like it seems funny and goofy. Steve Carell is, he was hilarious as Michael, which is his big role. People will probably compare this to, but he's a funny guy. Big cast. I just don't know what the end game is with this. Like, how does this end? What's the big climactic finish to this show, whether it's one or multiple seasons? Mm-hmm. I just don't know where they're going with it. I mean, I know they're trying to establish...
It's kind of what The Office was,
branch.
though, no?
Well, The Office was, like, everyday life, though. Like, let's make fun of, like, everyday office life. Mm-hmm. This is Space Force. This isn't everyday life, so I feel like there's going to have to be, like, an end goal here. Okay. And it'll be funny along the way, but I just don't know what that'll be, so I don't know. It comes out May 29th on Netflix, so it's coming up quick. I'll probably watch, what else do we have to do, than watch TV shows, so I'll probably watch the first couple episodes and see how it is. So
yeah, check it out and see if it's worth watching.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Did you have anything else to talk about with that one?
No, not really.
It was just a teaser trailer. There were some funny parts, but some questions about it too. But yeah, something to watch in a couple weeks. Yeah. Last up in the trailer park is the one that I am most excited for. It is The King of Staten Island, starring, or I think written and directed by Judd Apatow. Let me just confirm that. Yes, produced by Judd Apatow, co-written by him and Dave Sears and Pete Davidson, starring Pete Davidson, because this is partially about his life. But yeah, I think this looks great. It's a kind of, like I said, somewhat biopic-ish of Pete Davidson.
Semi-autobiographical?
That term, yes, that one. About his life growing up in Staten Island, because he had a dad who was a firefighter, and I don't know if this is how they're going to do in the movie, but in real life he died during the 9/11 attacks, and I know Pete has said in interviews and what have you that really messed him up as a kid.
No kidding.
And so that's what this is going to be, kind of about that part of his life after the fact and dealing with it. Marissa Tomei stars in this as his mom, which is awesome. I love Marissa Tomei. Mm-hmm. Judd Apatow's daughter, Maud, is in this. Mm-hmm. She's been in
I love her.
A lot of... Yeah, she's great. She's been in a lot of his stuff. This is 40... I mean, that's the one I remember her most of, and she's obsessed with watching Lost.
She was in Euphoria too, which came out not too long ago. Okay. She's also in the new Netflix show Hollywood, which I've heard things about here and there, but I haven't sat and watched it.
Yeah. So this trailer was awesome. I love the music in it.
Such great music.
Funny moments in it. A perfect blend of funny and serious. I love it when. So yeah, in the movie, it seems like in the movie, they're going to be steering him towards being a firefighter like his dad was. So it'll be interesting to see how far they go with that, because obviously Pete Davidson didn't become a firefighter. He became a comedian, so I wonder what'll happen with that. But in the movie, Marissa Tomei, his mom, starts dating, it says here, a loudmouth firefighter from Indianapolis, and that's played by Bill Burr. Mm-hmm. That's kind of weird to me, like him being from Indianapolis, because Bill Burr just screams Boston
Right.
to me.
Yeah.
Like he is Boston. I don't know how you can play a guy from Indianapolis and not have his Boston accent. So that part of it's kind of weird to me. But other than that, you know, like I said, it looks funny. I like it when they're singing in the bar. And they're like, it's what every drunk person or even sober person does, where they start mumbling along to like the words they don't know, and then when it comes to the chorus and it's part they know, they yell that part out, which is hilarious. I just hope it isn't a case of like, oh, all the funny parts are in the trailer and,
I would
and
hate
they're not in
that.
the movie, because there are some
I
hilarious...
wouldn't think so. I mean,
wouldn't
Judd
think-
Apatow is so good with this type of movie.
I agree. That's like my only concern. I'm like, and that's nothing you can know or control. It's just, that's happened in the past where it's like, oh, all the funny parts are in the trailer. Like,
Ugh, I'll never forgive that Jason Bateman movie, Bad Words, where he like joins the spelling bee. Literally every single joke was in the trailer, and there were no other funny parts in the movie. I'm like, that was the biggest waste of my money at a movie theater ever, I think.
no, exactly, for sure. So I don't think that'll happen with this, because Judd Apatow is, at this point, he knows what he's doing. And Pete Davidson, I have complete faith that he's going to be great in this, especially after seeing End of Adolescence.
Big time adolescence.
Big time Adolescence.
Yes, he was so good in that, and I get a lot of like similar. I mean, his personality is just so unique, and he's so dry, and just how he comes off with stuff. So I'm really excited to see another movie like featuring him.
So yeah, this is going to be on demand June 12th. Which we haven't paid for like an on-demand early release movie yet. This one I'll probably be doing.
Yeah.
That's how excited I am to see this.
I would do that.
So, yeah, if you haven't seen it, check the trailer out. I think this movie's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, the trailer is like phenomenal. I don't know, it makes me so excited to see it. Like I said, the music in it's really good. It's just super catchy, and it's like I said, like Judd Apatow's really good at like taking sometimes like serious moments or serious events and kind of looking at it through a comedic lens. Like that's why I always think of like This Is 40. Like they deal with some like serious adult issues, and they're like, you know, dealing with like their messed up dads, and like they don't have good relationships, and they're scared of turning 40, but everything's like really funny about it too. So I think he'll find that good balance again between like Pete Davidson having to deal with, you know, his dad dying in 9/11, his mom's dating another firefighter now, but being able to look through it, like, comedically. So, that'll be good. That's it for the trailer park this week, right?
Yep, and we don't always have news on here, but today there was some news. First couple things we'll get to really quick. It's about the Academy. So with the whole world dealing with this whole COVID thing, and movies not being in theaters and theaters just not being open, the Academy Awards is they're allowing streaming movies to qualify for Oscar nominations. So before, movies would have to be in theaters for at least 7 days.
Oh, like Irishman, right? Because
Yeah,
last year, like that had to be available in theaters for a certain amount of time for it to qualify, even though it was like primarily made as a Netflix.
Yeah, it has to
Right.
be in theaters for at least whatever days. But yeah, like the Irishman, like I went and saw that in theaters. So yeah, it was in theaters. But now
they're doing like it doesn't have to be like run in theater.
correct. But
Right.
they said they originally had to have a plan to be in theaters. Like Extraction doesn't count
Oh, okay. I
because
see what you're
Extraction
saying.
would always
That was
the
always
plan-
planned
to
for a
be
streaming release
exactly.
only.
But like King of Staten Island or even Becky, movies like that where like there was a plan for them to be in theaters, but that just isn't happening now.
When's Disney releasing Mulan? Can Disney just put out Mulan now,
Yeah, I don't-
by the way?
I don't know. Like that would qualify because there was a plan for theaters.
I know.
I don't know if that's going to come to
It probably
streaming
won't.
at all.
It probably won't, but that's okay.
At this point, I don't know release dates of anything because it's like I need a freaking abacus to keep up with this. I don't know. I don't even try to like put in release date updates into this podcast anymore because they change all the fucking time. So yeah, that they're allowing movies instead of, no more 7-day thing, but there had to be a plan for them to be in theaters. And then also movies, they don't have to be re-released after this whole thing is over to qualify. They're
Gotcha.
just, if they came out during this time, there was a plan for it, and they're on demand, they don't have to like re-release it or anything. So
Okay.
Academy's
Well, that's kinda
allowing
cool.
that. Yep, it makes sense.
They're not usually flexible on things, so.
Yeah, they're some would argue they're not, because they made a category of most popular movie last year or 2 years ago for whenever that was, and people didn't like it, so they went, okay, not doing it anymore. Just kidding.
Right.
So yeah, so that's happening, which is nice. And then also in the Academy news, this upcoming year, they announced that they're going to be, instead of sound editing, sound mixing being two separate things, they're going to be just one award of best sound.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I don't know how sound editors or sound mixers feel about that, but for me, I mean, every year when we do our Oscar picks, I'm like, what's the difference? How can I choose between these two? Like, I could never remember the difference between the two, and so I guess it makes it easier for me to just go,
here
best
it is
sound.
for you. In layman's terms, sound editing is about collecting the sounds needed for a film. Sound mixing refers to what is done after they are collected.
Okay. And so,
So now
now they're
it's
putting
just
it together.
Best sound, yeah.
Okay. I mean, to be fair, usually when you see those two categories, it's four movies are nominated in both categories, and there's like an extra one in each. So it's like, I feel like there's a lot of overlap anyway. And I mean, I guess I would assume then too, like anyone who's involved in mixing and editing, all of them would be considered.
I would hope so. I'm
Included
not
for the award, I would think.
I would think so too. I'm not 100% sure on that. To me, I don't really care if they mix into one. I'm sure maybe people in these respective categories might care a little bit, but I mean, the Academy's changed stuff before.
Right.
Like,
and I
they
feel
used to
like
have
when
stuff-
we look at older stuff, like they don't have like the category names, always change, or it's like, I don't remember seeing like, sound editing and sound mixing as separate things. So I feel like maybe they were one award before.
Or just not an award, because
Yeah.
they're a silent film.
True.
But no, like they used to have like stuff broken out in color, black and white. Screenplay is split between. Some would argue like, oh, screenplay is split and original and adapted. Should they just have one screenplay? But I don't know. This, like I said, this isn't a big deal to me. It's one less award a movie can win. So if you like movies that, you like having 9 Academy Awards on the cover or something, this is one less for it, I guess. But yeah, so just that quick update. That's being down to 1. I don't know if it's permanent or not either, so I guess we'll see how it goes. Now on to some more of the sad side of things when it comes to news. Actor Irrfan Khan died. He was the star of movies like Slumdog Millionaire and Life of Pi are probably the two big ones. He was also in Jurassic World, and I'm pretty sure he was in the first Amazing Spider-Man, the one Andrew Garfield.
The Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
Series? You call it a series? I don't even know.
2 movies.
The Andrew Garfield version of the Spider-Man movies.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was in March 2018. He shared with the world that he was diagnosed with he had a tumor, and I think it was just kind of, he'd been battling that for a while, and he died. So he died from leukemia.
Yeah, really sad.
Yeah, like he wasn't in a ton of stuff. He was a big Bollywood star from what I've read, and I don't watch a lot of those movies, but I mean, listen, I love Life of Pi, and he's like the adult version of Pi in that movie. And he's phenomenal. I mean, Slumdog Millionaire is also, it's a Best Picture winning movie. And he was always great in the stuff I saw him in, so I was obviously very sad to hear about this.
Yeah, and this next person, they did work in film and TV, but Jerry Stiller passed away at the age of 92.
Yeah, that, so we're recording on the 11th. I mean, that happened, this morning.
Yeah, the news
yesterday.
was announced, earlier today. So, he plays one of my favorite characters, one of my favorite movies, Maury Ballstein in Zoolander. I always think of him as that role. He plays Frank Costanza.
Yeah, I was
in
gonna
Seinfeld.
ask you what your favorite role of his was, because I I didn't watch Seinfeld all the time, but I mean, he was hilarious in whatever parts I saw.
I was thinking of him and Kramer inventing the bro.
The bro, yep. I knew you'd bring up Zoolander, though, because I know you love those movies, and I just love how, like, I don't want to say over the top, but, like, how he just starts yelling at whoever.
Yeah.
But he's hilarious, and, sad to hear that news, and obviously his son, Ben Stiller, is a great actor and director in his own right, and I hope, best wishes to everyone in that family, but that was very sad to hear.
Yeah, so I think that wraps up our news for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, as you mentioned at the top of the show, this week's breakdown for the episode is the Best Picture winner from 1971, which is The French Connection. This movie was directed by William Friedkin. It stars Gene Hackman as Jimmy Popeye Doyle. Roy Scheider, who you probably recognize from Jaws, plays his partner, Buddy Russo. The film was nominated for 8 Oscars, and it won 5. Won Best Picture. Gene Hackman won Best Actor. William Friedkin won Best Director. They also won for Adapted Screenplay and Film Editing. The other nominations they had, Roy Scheider had a nomination for Supporting Actor. They're also nominated for Cinematography and Best Sound. There we go, just sound. Best Sound.
Yeah.
1 sound award.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, and boom, there you go. In 1971, they had that, just sound. Yeah, I'm looking at all of them right now. Yep.
Best
So there you
Sound.
go. They've done it before.
Yeah, so let's kind of the rundown on the Oscar stats here. Did you want to talk through kind of the plot of the movie?
Sure. So it's a police investigative type movie. So it opens in Marseille, where a cop is following a supposed drug lord dealer type person and gets killed. And then it jumps to New York, where we get introduced to Popeye Doyle and his partner, Buddy Russo, right? They're undercover. They're kind of just your typical New York cop, but Popeye Doyle kind of has a bad reputation from what you get out of the, some of the things some of the other characters say about him. He seems to have a lot of hunches that get other cops killed, and they go, they're partners, right? So they go to a bar randomly after one of their shifts, and they see this character, Boca, B-O-C-A, as they say in the movie a couple times. He's hanging out with some known felons or people of interest, and they don't know who this guy is, so they start following him and tailing him, and that leads to a bigger picture investigation of this Boca guy is involved with a large drug deal that's going on, where the guy at the beginning of the movie in Marseille is coming over and working with Boca and a couple other characters on bringing a bunch of heroin or cocaine into the States, and heroin smuggling, so there you go, heroin into the States. And Popeye and Buddy seem to be the only 2 cops who believe that this is going on or think that they're on the right track of bringing this guy down. So throughout the movie, there's a couple chase scenes along with a lot of walk and Popeye is following what's the main character's name?
Devereaux?
No, Alan, starts with a C. Charnier, yeah. He follows him around because he's in New York and he thinks he's a suspicious person. So there's a couple tailing scenes or stakeout scenes. Basically, they're trying to tie Boca and this guy from Marseille to the drug deal, and by the end of the movie, they are able to do that, and they corner all these people at this barn in the middle of nowhere where this drug deal is going on, and Popeye becomes so obsessed with trying to get this guy behind bars that he tries following him, running after him, tailing him down. He ends up shooting an FBI guy by mistake, and doesn't let, but Charnier gets away in the end. So they stop the drug deal from happening, but the big boss gets away. And that's basically in a nutshell what happens in this movie. It's,
That's a good synopsis, because for me, even seeing this movie twice, I think it was a little hard to follow.
Yeah, so like I'm torn on this movie because I first saw this years ago, like in middle school, high school, or back when I was not the mature person you see before you, but and I was kind of disappointed with it when I first saw it because I've heard of this movie. Like Gene Hackman, he won an Oscar for his role, which we'll get into that later. But it's considered a classic. It's on the AFI 100 movies list. On the initial one, it was number 70, and then when they redid it in 2007, it was still on the list, but dropped to 93, so it's considered a classic. But when I first saw it, I was kind of let down, or like, oh, that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And rewatching it now, twice in the last year, like the first time we watched it last year, and then rewatching it just to kind of be refreshed for this podcast, it's better than I thought it was back in my premature days. But yeah, like it's dated. Like there are just things in this movie that I think haven't dated well, or just we've talked about it with some of these older movies where like dialogue was just done differently for whatever reason back in like the pre-80s or something in that kind of time frame, where you kind of lose track of the plot sometimes if you aren't 100% paying attention to like every word they are speaking.
And you know me, I'm someone that something will happen in the movie, or there'll be something going on in the background, and I will daydream for like 5-6 minutes, and then I'll come back and be like, I have no idea where
to
I'm
be
at
fair,
now.
if you miss 5 or 6 minutes of any movie, that isn't the best thing.
I'm probably exaggerating, right? But that happens all the time where I'm just like, wait, what's happening?
It's crazy because like you look like you're watching the TV, and then you blink and you go, wait, what's going on? And like I have to do a double take, like, wait, when you were staring at the TV, you weren't just paying attention to the movie?
It's my superpower that I can completely shut off everything and just be in my own.
That is a lame superpower. You're up there with like the 1-inch needle guy from X-Men, where his power is just like an inch of needles comes out of him like a porcupine.
Oh, gross.
That's kind of like, that power doesn't do anything unless you're like this close to someone. But yeah, no, you do that, and yeah. So for these older movies, that is particularly trouble.
Yeah.
But like it's a movie of its time. Like you said, movies are just made this way. It's better than I thought it was. It does some things really well.
Certain things hold up really well.
But there are parts of this where it just either hasn't dated well because I guess racism was just taken better back then for whatever reason, because Popeye is like, I mean, he makes some racial slurs, and this film just treats like African Americans. The only African Americans in this movie are either being arrested for drugs or they're assumed to be a drug dealer. Like they just aren't represented well in this movie.
Oh, terrible.
At all.
Yeah.
So things like that just don't date well. I mean, Popeye drops the N-word at least once or twice. And yeah, just like the opening scene. So I said, like on Wikipedia, it says it opens in Marseille. An undercover police detective follows Alan Charnier, who runs the world's largest heroin smuggling syndicate. Policeman is assassinated by Charnier's hitman, Pierre Nicolai. Charnier plans to smuggle $32 million worth of heroin into the United States by hiding it in the car of his unsuspecting friend, television personality Devereaux, who you mentioned, who is traveling to New York City by ship. Like, that is the first paragraph of, like, the Wikipedia summary. But, like, you don't get any of that just by watching the movie.
No, you don't.
They never say a dollar amount in the movie. There is, like, that opening scene where a guy is, like, following Charnier, and he does get shot and killed, but at no point do they say this guy is a cop.
No. And you have no idea. And they don't come back to that at all. So yeah, I mean, it's like you can have a description like, hey, this is what happens in that scene, but there's nothing that happens in the movie that would give you that impression.
Yeah.
So I feel like there are a few situations where I'm just like, yeah, you're right, like reading synopsis and other plot summaries, helped, but it's like if I didn't have anything to fall back on for that, there's nothing in the movie that would clue you into that.
Yeah, so there's a lot that is like implied and just not explained well, which I don't know if a lot of movies did back then. Maybe they did or didn't, but that's something that this movie just didn't do well.
Yeah.
Also, some things, so this is like a big, police investigative movie, but they have like all the aspects of a big investigation in this movie, but they brush over some of what I think could be really interesting parts. Like, they have to go get a wiretap on Boca's like phone. He's like, we need 2 wiretaps, one for the store and one for the house. And there's literally just one scene of them listening in on the wire tap, and they like get good information. They just start celebrating and dancing, and like that's it. And maybe it's just because I've seen The Wire now, like the show The Wire.
Yeah.
But I know that stuff could be really interesting, like the conversations they hear this clue, which leads them to this or something like that. And I think that could have been something interesting, because this movie's an hour 40, like it's not that long, and I'm not saying it needs to be longer to be good, but there are some things that they could have taken a little deeper dive into, like the wiretap scene, or I mentioned that the drug dealer gets like a TV celebrity involved in this.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that happens, and they kind of introduce him as a character. But then it's kind of questioned, like, does he know what's going on? To what extent does he know what's going on with this drug deal? I don't know. And they kind of answer it by the end. He didn't seem to know a whole lot what was going on, but it's like, how did he get involved or why? Like, I don't know. There's like a lot of interesting things there that they just don't really dive into too much.
Right, and that was something that, I didn't really like, because a lot of their investigation, they show a lot of detail of them just like following people, like trailing people.
Yes.
But in terms of like, that like hard evidence stuff, which, like the wiretapping, that's super fascinating. My favorite part of the movie is when they are stripping this car, and they're like, and Popeye's like convinced, he's like, this car is dirty, there's something here, we need to pull it apart, and they've completely dismantled this entire car. They're like, look, there's nothing here. And all of a sudden, Buddy's like, wait, what did you say the weight was for this car when we brought it in? And they're like, oh, it's however amount. He's like, manufacturer weight is like 200 pounds less than that. Mm-hmm. There's something here. So it's like, I love those details where people are like, wait, let's take a step and see like what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Where like they're actually putting the puzzle pieces together instead of just constantly like following someone. No,
I think you just verbalized exactly how I feel, because I have the car stripping scene down as like, I very much like that part of the movie. And like when I said earlier that this movie is a lot of like chase scenes, or like I'm following this person, like I think there's too much of that. There's too much of let's just follow this guy, because like not a lot goes on.
Right.
Like the big scene is when Gene Hackman is tailing Charnier, and they're going into like the subway, like underground, and like it's that whole scene where they hop on the subway at the same time.
Yes.
And then Charnier like gets off the subway, and Gene Hackman immediately gets off the subway, which he sucks at trailing people.
He's not very good.
Not subtle at all.
No.
And it's so as soon as he gets off the subway, Gene Hackman gets off. So it's like obvious that this guy is following him.
Right, and and that's exactly what he's testing. He's like, I think I'm being followed. Let me test this.
Gets back on the subway. So Gene Hackman gets back on the subway, and then boom, like right as the doors are gonna close, Charnier gets off the subway, but then hops right back on, and Gene Hackman only sees him get off. So he gets off, and then, he's not on the subway anymore, and Charnier gets away. And I'm just like, that scene is cool, like, seeing them, like, do that back and forth, but, like, there are, like, 2 or 3 other scenes where they're just following him. And it's like, I get that that's probably more realistic in an investigation, like, tailing someone, and there's a couple stakeout scenes, too, where, like, they're staking out Boca's restaurant. Like initially, and that's how this all starts, because he's like, suspicious in the bar, so they stake out his restaurant, and they stake out the quote dirty car that they strip down later that you mentioned.
Yep.
Like those scenes are cool. I don't mind those, but like the just following someone around stuff, it gets a little repetitive and boring to me. And you're right, like I love the like, look at this detail and this detail, they don't match up. Like, that's crazy. Like the car stripping scene. Or the sniper scene, like more action scenes. There's only a few action scenes in this, which again, like, it's probably more on the realistic side. Did not have too many on here, but the big scene in this movie that people remember is the chase scene. So it starts out with that bodyguard who killed the undercover cop in Marseille that we didn't know about because no one ever said he was a cop. He tries taking Popeye out sniper-wise, so like when he's just walking to his apartment, he starts getting shot at, and then it leads to a chase scene where the villain gets on a elevated train, and then Popeye figures out the next stop is and steals a car and starts chasing to like get to that stop before him. Like, that's an entertaining scene. And there is some good action in it, but I just want more of that stuff. I just cut down on the following people and maybe get to more actual investigative details and action scenes. That's what my big dumb brain needs. I need the action scenes and the things that make me feel smart by saying, oh, these two details don't work out.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's part of the fun in, like, investigation, like, crime type movies, is that, I mean, that's why Knives Out is so fun. Like, you want to try and solve it along with them. Mm-hmm. But when the only evidence you're given is just Popeye following people, it's like, well, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's part of what they want. Like, you don't know how this is going to go. You don't know what's going to happen. Maybe that's kind of what they intended. But I think as an audience member, it's more exciting to kind of, like, try to put the puzzle pieces together, like, as the movie goes. Mm-hmm.
No, for sure. I completely agree with that. I will say something else I do like in this movie, as much as, like, maybe his character sucks a little bit, I do like the characterization and the way they develop Popeye in this movie. Like, you get that he is kind of like has a bad reputation or is maybe not the best person in the world, but he's a decent cop. He's even kind of a womanizer. Like, he ends up in bed with someone that, he gets handcuffed to his own bed and his partner has to unlock him out of that bed. Like, you get that he's kind of a drunk bum, but is a fairly good cop and wants to get this case solved. And in the end, he is kind of driven crazy by it and ends up killing an FBI agent and doesn't even catch the bad guy. So, like, I do like the characterization of him, and I think Gene Hackman gives a good performance in this role. And I'll say, like, the ending is another thing I don't love. Like, it abruptly ends. I don't know what you do differently. That's not my job to do, I guess. It's their job to figure it out. But, like, in the end, yeah, he kills an FBI agent by accident because he thought he was Charnier. And then he, like, runs to the back of this building that he thinks he's in. And then it just ends and cuts to black and says, like, oh, all these people went to jail, but Charnier was never caught. I don't know what you do differently. I mean, he just killed an FBI agent, so, like, it might be, like, let's see some repercussions of that a little bit. But I just thought the movie ended kind of abruptly and in a weird way. But, yeah, that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, and for me, that's kind of one of, I mean, not that particular part, but like you said, like the character of Popeye, I had trouble finding things that were likable about him. Like, towards the end of the movie, I'm like, is he a cop? And you're like, I think it's pretty obvious that he's a cop. I'm like, but he does, like, everything off the book. Like,
it's his bad boy reputation.
He's, like, such a shady person. Yeah, I mean, it's like some of the stuff he does, I'm like, is this, like, what people did, like, in the early 70s? Or is this what Hollywood thinks cops do? Like,
I don't know,
he, like, shows up, like, all these cops, like, stop this car, and it's like, oh, okay. And he just, like, shoots his gun in the air. Just, like, I'm like, no, like, you don't do that.
He's a bad boy cop on the loose.
No.
You can't control him.
And like you mentioned at the end, like, when they're in this, like, abandoned building, warehouse, whatever, he thinks, oh, that must be Charnier. You can't even see the guy completely, just shoots, and yeah, he ends up killing one of his own guys.
Yeah, normally I would hope cops don't just shoot blindly.
So it's like
moving person.
Stuff like that. was just, yeah, he wasn't a character that I was necessarily rooting for.
No, and I'm not saying that, like, he's a great person, but I'm just saying, like, the way they developed him and the acting behind it was pretty good. It's kind of like Joker, right? Like, I know you don't like that movie, and, like, that character is not a good person, but I will still say, while I don't love that movie, Joaquin Phoenix was fantastic in that role, and I think Gene Hackman was really good in this role, and they developed Popeye pretty good. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. It's maybe more that, I don't know, some of the stuff he did, it didn't seem very believable. I don't know.
Like what?
Like
some of the stuff you're
we
saying?
showed up to a scene and I'm just gonna pop off a few rounds into the air. It's like, dude, no, I don't know.
Desk pop.
Yeah,
Gotta
a desk pop.
So he's just doing his
The
desk
other
pop.
guys. Oh my god, so stuff like that is just like, I don't know. It's not my favorite.
Okay. Well, I think you might have answered the question already, but the sequel did come out for this movie. Would you be interested in seeing it?
I mean, one, I don't even know what's about. I don't know if it's like Charnier Take Two.
So yeah, okay. So the sequel came out.
I will say that my parents watched it recently and they hated it. So
Yeah, so the sequel, it came out in 1975, and yeah, it's basically a continuation of this story from The
Okay.
French Connection.
Okay.
So I like how this movie ends with saying, oh, Charnier was never caught. Mm-hmm. But then, like, oh, they make a movie a couple of years later where Popeye goes to France to track him down and catch him.
okay.
And I get, spoiler alert for this, 50-year-old movie or whatever. Is that right? Math? No, 45-year-old movie.
45.
He ends up killing Charnier, like, in the end of The French Connection 2. So he, like, does track him down and kill him.
Interesting.
So I guess they didn't have the sequel in mind when they ended the first French Connection.
Yeah.
He does get caught just a couple years later, too. So that's the second, but they also made a...
Is Gene Hackman in that?
Yes,
or?
Gene
Okay.
Hackman and the guy that played Charnier are back. Fernando Rey. The two of them are back.
Gotcha.
But also, they made a 1986 television movie called Popeye Doyle, where Ed O'Neill plays Popeye Doyle.
Oh, that would be interesting to see Ed O'Neill as Popeye. I could see him fade into that role.
Yeah.
A TV movie?
Yeah, it was made
Interesting.
for television.
Okay.
The only thing, like little snippet premise I have here is New York police detective Popeye Doyle investigates the case of a murdered model, which leads him on the trail of a gang of terrorists and drug cartel of international smugglers. Wow, that seems to take a big leap there.
Wow.
But yeah, so like Popeye Doyle, there's been 3-ish movies about him, so.
So he's a fascinating character.
He is. I mean, he is like a
See.
flawed detective who, like, tries to do like a good job, but in his personal life is a mess. So those characters are pretty interesting. Usually, I don't always love just straight and narrow, like what this character is going to do all the time. Like they have this kind of bland personality. It is nice having flawed personalities in lead roles, which is why I like Gene Hackman in this role. But I think there are just other parts of the story that are kind of dated, for the French Connection. So at the time, I'm sure it was and still is beloved, and maybe at the time it was probably loved even more. I just think time hasn't been great to it.
Yeah, I would agree.
So what score would you give The French Connection?
So I give French Connection a 7.7. It's a decent story, but kind of like for the reasons we've said, like I think it would have been more compelling if they had more like physical evidence. Yeah, I think that just would have been like made for a more engaging story. So that's where I'm falling on this one. 7.7.
I gave it an 8.3.
Okay.
So yeah, it's in that like great. I guess it was like a great movie, but definitely not like amazing or fantastic or towards the like top echelon type movies for me. So yeah, that's where I stand on it. Did you have anything else that you wanted to point out or talk about with The French Connection?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So yeah, check it out. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. It is on, so it's on Amazon Prime under the Stars channel. So if you like are renting or if you pay for the Stars channel on there, The French Connection is on there. From 1971, runs about an hour 40. So check it out if you're interested. So yeah, on to Real Justice. So this episode, we clearly have French Connection, which won Best Picture in 1971. And what we matched this up against could have been a couple things. Fiddler on the Roof came out. Last Picture Show came out that year. But we decided to go with a Stanley Kubrick classic, Clockwork Orange. So, like I said, we did a full review on this, which will come out later this week or in the near future. So we don't need to dive into the plot of this too much. If you want to know more about it, just stay tuned for that episode. But yeah, we got the 5 categories here: cinematography, music or score, writing, acting, and then the last one is kind of just a general, like, which one did you enjoy more? Whether it's you like the historical importance of it or just enjoyed it more, whatever. It's just which one did you like more as a tiebreaker. The first category is cinematography. I guess we'll start with you. Like, which one, like, cinematography wise, did you like more?
I like the
Ooh, you sounded like you were really set to say something. And then you stopped in your tracks.
It's one of those things where it's like, the more you talk about a movie, the more you realize, like, oh, yeah, maybe that was something I missed, or maybe something I didn't think about quite as much. But, because what I will say about French Connection, the car chasing, that's great scene with great camera work. It's really cool how a lot of the scene is, like, the camera, like, it's like dashboard view, basically. Like, it's Popeye's perspective, so that's really cool. But I would say overall, A Clockwork Orange has a more kind of artistic style. And so that's where I'm gonna go with Clockwork Orange on cinematography here. Just because they had just like some really interesting angles, the way that they would like pan across the room, or like the way they would angle the camera. It was just like a more creative, unique, kind of artistic feel to it, which I enjoyed more. So that's what I'm going to go with.
No, that's totally fair. Because you're right, the chase scene in French Connection was really well done.
Really well done, yeah.
For sure. But yeah, looking at Clockwork Orange, I mean, it's just set in like a different type of city, or it has a different feel to it. Like, French Connection is New York City, and it's New York City. Nothing against New York City, but that you can tell that's what it is. Nothing crazy or special there. Clockwork Orange is really interesting because, yeah, they take like a dystopian future and like create all these set pieces and like put this world that it's in, and I think that's more interesting. So I'm kind of leaning towards Clockwork Orange as well, and I'm gonna pick that one. And while some of them are just disturbing, I just think it's more interesting to look at and to watch.
Very much so.
So yeah, that's why I'm going with that one as well.
Okay. Next we have music or score. What do you say for that one?
So this one, so it's 2 different styles. In A Clockwork Orange, most of it is, it's either Mozart, because that's a big plot point in the movie, so you hear a lot of Mozart. But a lot of it is... Beethoven, sorry.
Ludwig van.
My
what he always calls him.
My fault.
That's okay.
But also there's a lot of... The music kind of makes it more comical. Like, during the 25-minute sex scene that they, like, speed up to take place in, like, 5 minutes. It's... What's the song it's set to?
William Tell's Overture.
Yeah, so it's just like it kind of adds some humor to it.
Yep.
But then in French Connection, it's kind of this film noir, kind of mysterious tones and music to it to kind of add to the feel of it. So it's kind of tough. I think I'm gonna again lean Clockwork Orange because I'll be honest, like I remember it more. Like I think it adds to like the emotion of the movie more. Like it kind of made scenes funny to me that maybe wouldn't have been without the music. And while French Connection has those like noir kind of dark tone music, like I was getting that anyways. And I think the music in Clockwork Orange made me feel an emotion that was maybe a little different than you might expect. So I'm leaning that way.
Okay. I agree on a lot of those points where, like the noir type music that they feature in French Connections, like it's perfect. Like it fits the movie really well, but it's not, but it's subtle. And I think in A Clockwork Orange, like music plays a huge role in like the character himself, the way that he handles like his treatment that he undergoes. But you're right, they also use the music to like evoke different emotions. I know you say like there's situations where like, yeah, the music kind of makes things humorous. It's also very like they use it in like weird juxtapositions though too, because like they have this beautiful like lyrical music and in the background like some person's getting beat up, and so you're kind of like, whoa, like what am I supposed to be feeling right now, because this person's being violent but also this is really beautiful music on top, so it has a much bigger impact. So I agree on this one that I'll go with A Clockwork Orange for the music as well.
Okay. So next, let's go to acting next. We'll go to that one. Did you want to touch on that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you got for acting?
So this is interesting. It's weird because I said I didn't really like Popeye. He's not on the straight and narrow. Like I don't really like the things he does. But on the flip side, the main character in Clockwork Orange, who I can't think of anymore, Malcolm McDowell plays him, but I can't think of the character name.
Alex?
Yeah, maybe that's
I think it's Alex.
He's not a likable person. Like he's definitely a worse person. But I love Malcolm McDowell's portrayal of him. It was just so intriguing. So I don't know why I like him playing this worse character more than I like Gene Hackman playing Popeye, but for me, Clockwork Orange wins in acting as well.
Okay. Looking at it, Malcolm McDowell, in a role that like I only see him as an old person, so it's weird seeing him in this role as Alex. Is great. I think I agree, he's really good in it. And then French Connection, I mean, Gene Hackman won an Oscar for his role. Roy Schneider was nominated for an Oscar for his role as his partner Buddy. I'm going to go with French Connection on this because I agree Malcolm McDowell is great in his role, but other than him, everyone else in that movie is really goofy, and I really don't like their portrayals. Like his teacher that like acts really creepy, and his parents act really weird. I honestly, other than Malcolm McDowell, I don't really love any other performance in that movie at all.
The like old guy, I mean he's really not that old, but like the writer guy who like he gets held up at the beginning and then he comes back in the end. I thought he was somewhat interesting, but yeah, that's really the only character that has any sort of development in the movie. Yeah,
and even he has weird things where like when he realizes who Alex is, they like do a close up on his face and his eyes are like rolling up in his head and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's some weird overacting.
Yeah,
I get it, but Gene Hackman I think is truly great in his role as Popeye. Roy Schneider is good in his role too. I just think like it's close. I do think it's close in this one, but I just think there's more better acting in French Connection. So I think the acting's better in that one, so I'm going with French Connection on that.
Yeah, that's fair.
The next one we have is writing. So this one, both of these movies were nominated in the same category of adapted screenplay, but French Connection won the award and Clockwork Orange did not. What were your what do you agree with the Academy on there? Who do you think which movie had the better writing?
Yeah, it's hard for me to explain why I like the writing in the French Connection more, because like I said, I think a lot of the story was a little bit, things were implied, but, where Clockwork Orange has a more straightforward story. But yeah, I think I just appreciated the French Connection better. I don't really have a very strong reason for one or the other, but I am going with French Connection on this. So maybe you can enlighten me with a hard, fast reason to take one or the other.
Looking at them, I'm going with Clockwork Orange, and that's because while I just think the dialogue is better in it. I think it is easier to follow.
Yep.
Other than them, that it takes place in England or some kind of British dystopian future. There's some slang terms that I think we don't get, but a lot of other people probably get. And it's even though we don't know what the word is, we can kind of imply what it means.
Yeah.
I think both stories are pretty easy. I don't want to say basic, but kind of easy-ish to follow. But the dialogue in French Connection, or lack thereof, was kind of bugging me. That whole beginning part that we talked about, where it's an undercover cop dies and we didn't even realize it, and they're actually, I'm trying to think, all the chase scenes and stuff was a little much, and I don't know if that's whether it tested to the writing or not, but I don't know. I think this dystopian world that Clockwork Orange takes place in, and I know it's based on a book, but both these are based on other work, but the idea of brainwashing someone and introducing them to their world again, and having them running into these reoccurring characters and just having these different outcomes happen, I think is a little more creative and a little more attention grabbing to me than some of the stuff that happened in French Connection. So that's why I'm going with Clockwork Orange.
All right.
Mainly dialogue and just things happening that hold my interest a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure.
Right now, I think we're both 3-1. Clockwork Orange, but just kind of in different ways.
Yep.
I know it doesn't really matter, but just enjoyed more generally. Which one would take that fifth category for you?
A Clockwork Orange was more enjoyable to me.
Yeah, even though it's
which is so weird to say because it's such a gross subject matter, but it was just I was so drawn into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a car wreck, you can't look away kind of thing.
No, I completely agree.
Or those clips of gruesome sports injuries, you don't really want to watch it, but then you do, and you're like, oh, why am I watching this? But also that was really interesting. I don't know. I feel like that's the best comparison I can make. Yeah,
I have Clockwork Orange as well, because you're right. And it's in our review later in the week. We both say this isn't good things. Not a lot of good things happen in this movie.
No.
And there's not a lot of great things happen in French Connection either. But it's it's a story that you can kind of relate to a little bit more because it's more based in reality than Clockwork Orange. But maybe because it isn't based in our reality, it's more attention grabbing and holds it more.
Oh, for sure.
So while not a lot of good things happen in it, I did enjoy watching A Clockwork Orange more. So yeah, we both have Clockwork Orange 4-1. So would you say you would have rather had A Clockwork Orange win Best Picture than The French Connection?
Yeah, I would.
Pretty handily too.
Yeah.
Apparently.
And honestly, I gave writing to French Connection, but part of that was just because I'm I can't pick Clockwork Orange for every single category, can I?
You can if you want to. If that's truly how you feel.
I feel like I needed to give them something.
Gotta give them a bone. Because
it's not a bad movie.
No, it's not. It's not a bad movie. We gave it our scores. It's a good movie.
They're both nominated for Best Picture. They've done something right.
Yeah.
But Clockwork Orange is just it's one of those things where you always hear Stanley Kubrick classic film director, creator, whatever. His films, they're just classics, and seeing this, I'm yeah, totally. I get it.
Mm-hmm. for sure. I think too, like they both have like opposite effects. Where I think French Connection has been dated a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like it's almost the opposite with a Clockwork Orange. I almost think it was like ahead of its time because at the time, like people didn't like it because of the subject matter and how like out there it was. But how many, like Handmaid's Tale is a dystopian, creepy future. People love that show. Like I think if a Clockwork Orange were to come out like these days, obviously updated, like I think people would. It would be a bigger hit. Like not that this wasn't a hit. It was nominated for Best Picture, but people didn't receive it that well. I think it would be received better now.
Yes, for sure. I mean, no, that's good.
Good? Did I nail that one on the head?
You did. Yep, that was
crushed
good.
it.
I was going to add something, and I'm like, that doesn't even really
Nothing
make
you
sense,
said could be better than what I just said.
Sure. Okay. So, yes, Clockwork Orange gets the vote for us.
Yeah,
in real justice.
I agree with that. So, yeah, moving on. So, we've got the other, like, big nominees, winners of 1971. So, I'm not going to rework a ton here because I haven't seen a lot of these movies and I was almost 20 years removed from being born at this time. So, but I definitely like running through the nominees and winners for each of these categories. So, what do we have first?
So let's see. Let's start with Best Supporting Actress. Nominees this year we had Anne Margaret for Carnal Knowledge, Ellen Burstyn for The Last Picture Show, Barbara Harris for... I need to take a breath before I say this title. Who is Harry Kellerman and why is he saying those terrible things about me? Interesting. Margaret Leighton for The Go-Between, and then the winner was Cloris Leachman for The Last Picture Show.
Yeah, Cloris Leachman, known really people our age probably as like in comedies.
Yeah.
Right? But she's an Oscar winner. Mm-hmm. Which I've only seen one of these movies, but it holds two acting roles here. I've seen The Last Picture Show, and I'm surprised Ellen Burstyn got a nomination, and maybe it's just because she was a big actress at the time, but I think she plays the mother of one of the lead characters. I really don't think she's in this movie a lot, but I like Cloris Leachman in that she won. She's good in her role too. She plays this like older woman who is kind of falling out of love with her husband, and the main character who's like a high schooler like goes to her house every once in a while, and they end up having an affair together and they fall in love. So kind of an out of the ordinary love story there, but she's really good in it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be reworking too much. I'm just happy that she won.
Yeah, awesome. More nominations for Last Picture Show here. In the next category, Best Supporting Actor, we have nominations for Jeff Bridges for The Last Picture Show, Leonard Frey for Fiddler on the Roof, Richard Jekyll for Sometimes a Great Notion, as we mentioned previously, Roy Scheider for The French Connection, and then the winner went to Ben Johnson for his role in The Last Picture Show. So, Last Picture Show taking both supporting actor and actress.
Yep, and I've seen all of these nominees except for one, and that's the Sometimes a Great Notion. I haven't seen that one, but I've seen Fiddler on the Roof, obviously The French Connection, and The Last Picture Show. So I've seen 4 of these 5 nominees. They're all great. I don't love Ben Johnson as the winner. That character is not in that movie a lot. It's kind of the same as Ellen Burstyn. Like his character is really only in the first like quarter of the movie. So if it had to be a winner from that movie, I'd actually rather go with Jeff Bridges. But I would honestly be happy with Roy Schneider winning for The French Connection as well. I mean, as Buddy, the partner cop, he was great in it. Like I said, for acting, I did give that section to The French Connection. I do think Roy Schneider is really good in that role in Buddy. So I would have given it to either him or Jeff Bridges. But what are you going to do?
Exactly. Cool. So, Best Actress. We had nominations for Julie Christie for McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Glenda Jackson for Sunday, Bloody Sunday, Vanessa Redgrave for Mary Queen of Scots, Janet Sussman for Nicholas and Alexandra, and then the winner went to Jane Fonda for Clute.
Yeah, so I've only seen Clute out of all of these. So I guess I'll just say I'm happy she won. She plays... That was an interesting movie.
I was gonna say, I don't know what it's about.
It co-stars Donald Sutherland. So...
Love him.
Yep, Donald Sutherland is a cop, like a private investigator or detective, and he's investigating a friend of his who's gone missing. And that leads him to... I think it takes place in New York City, where the person he's trying to find knew Jane Fonda's character, who is a prostitute, actually, in this. So it's like one of the... I don't say it's one of the first, but you know, I feel like prostitutes weren't given a lot of leading roles back in the day. So she plays that character, who then falls in love with Clute, who's Donald Sutherland's character. The two of them fall in love, and you know, they kind of solve the missing persons case together after that. So you know, the only one I've seen, but she was good in it, and happy she won.
Awesome. For the Best Actor nominees this year, we had Peter Finch for Sunday, Bloody Sunday, Walter Matthau nominated for Koch, George C. Scott for The Hospital, and Chaim Topol for Fiddler on the Roof. And then, as we've discussed, Gene Hackman won the Best Actor for The French Connection.
Yeah, so big category in the sense of 4 of these 5 people would go on to either have already won an Oscar or win an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Gene Hackman won the Oscar for this. He'd win again for Unforgiven, which we reviewed last time. Peter Finch would go on to win an Oscar a couple years later for Network. Walter Matthau won an Oscar for The Fortune Cookie. I don't know if he'd won it at that point already or not, but you know, he would win one. And George C. Scott was coming off of his Oscar win for Patton the year before.
Yep.
And then Topol, you know, he won awards for, I think, the Broadway version of Fiddler on the Roof. So, you know, getting an Oscar nomination for that role is great. I've only seen 2 of these, French Connection, Fiddler on the Roof. I will say I love, as I've said before, Gene Hackman in the role as French Connection, so I probably wouldn't change this at all. But I honestly would have no problem if Topol would have won for Fiddler on the Roof either. I mean, that's a 3-hour-long movie, like, musical, which I don't love musicals, but I actually really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah.
And he is, like, in it. Like, every scene almost. Like, he carries that movie. And again, I think he had that role, like, the Broadway version of it, too. So he just knows that character and was really good in it. So I wouldn't have had a problem if Topol would have won, but I did like Gene Hackman as Popeye.
Yeah, very cool. Moving on to Best Director, the nominees that year were Stanley Kubrick for Clockwork Orange, Norman Jewison for Fiddler on the Roof, Peter Bogdanovich for The Last Picture Show, John Schlesinger for Sunday, Bloody Sunday, and the winner was William Friedkin for French Connection.
Yep, so again, Norman Jewison, by the way, so great. He directed In the Heat of the Night, which had won Best Picture a couple years earlier, but he didn't win the Oscar for that movie. It was split that year. I'll be honest, if I were to change this, I probably wouldn't give William Friedkin the Oscar for this. The camera work with the chasing was really cool, which, you know, he deserves a nomination and credit for that alone, but I mean, I would have loved to give it to either Stanley Kubrick or Norman Jewison, because the world, like, kind of building that Stanley Kubrick did in that movie, and the sets and all that stuff was fantastic in A Clockwork Orange. But also with Norman Jewison, I mean, that movie, just the scope of it, and like how it takes place in this village, and the cinematography in that movie is amazing as well, like, and then the shots and everything in it. I would have loved to have given it to either of them. Maybe lean towards Stanley Kubrick, but either one of those guys I would have been really happy with.
Yeah, I agree. I know I haven't been adding in
Yes,
a lot of feedback
I've been
here,
bad. I should be asking.
I have not seen many of these movies. I mean, honestly, the only 2 that I've seen that we've discussed so far, French Connection and Clockwork Orange. I've seen a stage production of Fiddler on the Roof, so like I know the story, but have not seen like the film adaptation of it. But yeah, I don't think that William Friedkin did anything outstanding in terms of his directing for French Connection. So I feel like it could have gone to someone else, but as we've said, I liked Clockwork Orange a lot better, so easy for me to say that I think Kubrick, could have won that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and finally here we've got Best Picture nominees: Clockwork Orange, Fiddler on the Roof, Last Picture Show, Nicholas and Alexandra, and the winner was French Connection. The only one we haven't really talked about at all is Nicholas and Alexandra. Are you familiar with that one at all?
No, I have not seen that movie at all. I hadn't really heard of it until we started kind of looking at these nominees and year at the Oscars, but on IMDb it says Tsar Nicholas II, the inept last monarch of Russia, insensitive to the needs of his people, is overthrown and exiled to Siberia with his family. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I just haven't really heard of it before. Looking at the cast list, I don't really recognize anyone in this movie, but that might be a movie to catch in the future. It's 3 hours long, so I guess if we have an afternoon to ourselves, we could check it out. But
so Janet Susan, who played Alexandra, she was nominated for Best Actress. So, she must have done a good job in her role. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's like a royal family that doesn't get a lot of attention. That could be fairly interesting.
Yeah, it was directed by Franklin J. Schaffner as well, who was just coming off of his win for Patton the year before. So, hot director at the time. So, no, I hadn't heard of it, but that might be one to check out in the future. If it's on like Turner Classic Movies or something.
There you go.
I would definitely check that one out. So yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. I think we both agreed, at least when it's French Connection versus A Clockwork Orange, we would pick A Clockwork Orange over, as the winner here. I would put French Connection as maybe even like third or fourth on this list for me. The Last Picture Show is great. I hadn't seen it until recently. When I say recently, I mean like within the last 6 months or a year. But that movie is surprisingly really good to me. Fiddler on the Roof, I don't love musicals, but that one was excellent. I would maybe put French Connection below even both of those for this. It must have been a thing at the time where people were really excited to see a cop drama or something. But yeah, I don't know. Any of your thoughts on this?
Right, and like you said, it's if people have been paying attention, Clockwork Orange, I think it had 4 or 5 nominations that year. It didn't win any Oscars. It really didn't win any awards, and I think part of that is just people didn't really understand it. People didn't want to give it credit, and so I think over time it's become more appreciated. But I guess from the time, I can understand that maybe why this movie didn't win, but with only seeing those two, I would put Clockwork Orange ahead of French Connection, but sounds like you think there may be 2 or 3 other films that were...
Yeah, just looking at it now, like Fiddler on the Roof, I think was the biggest movie of that year, like box office wise.
Sure.
I could maybe look that up really quickly, but people love that movie. And I really liked it too. Last Picture Show, it's not a lot of action in it, so there's more action in French Connection, but that isn't the point of that movie. It's more of like a deep storyline. So I connected with that one a little bit more. So yeah, I would probably put it fourth, and I haven't seen Nicholas and Alexandra. I'm sure I would I don't know for sure, but I can probably put French Connection ahead of that one, but I'd probably put it third or fourth.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the nominees from 1971?
No, I was just trying to look up, because as I said, Topol had played the Broadway version of Fiddler on the Roof. I was trying to look up, because as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, that might not be right. I think he played it later on, but I think someone else played that role in the Broadway version before, and I think it was kind of controversial that they had Topol be that role instead of the Broadway person, but... Okay. I could be wrong. I was trying to confirm that, but I couldn't really find it in time, so we can move on. Okay, so...
Get into our countdown, right?
Yes, well, this is the last thing of the episode. We're doing our countdown, our top 5. So since French Connection is so well known for the chase scene, with the elevated subway and everything, we decided to do top 5 movie chase scenes, our own personal favorite, not best, but favorite chase scenes. So let's see, who wants to go first? You or me?
You go first.
Okay. So I cheated at number 5 and I did a tie.
Okay.
And I did the French Connection at number 5 because it's it's one of the more famous ones, and it was pretty good, but I put it in with the opening getaway scene for Baby Driver. Okay. Because I really like that one. Sure. I love how the Baby Driver one incorporates the music with it as well. Yeah. Because the driver is he has hearing issues, so he puts in music to to set his own tone or something like that. And I love how the music was incorporated with that opening getaway, and it was just awesome. So I felt kind of obligated to put French Connection on here, but I really want to put Baby Driver, so I just said it was a tie. Perfect. I would say I really came up with 6, so I kind of have an honorable mention. I would say we can do honorable mentions. And really, I don't even really need to have it on the list, but it's I came up with 6, so if we want to talk about it, I can. Okay. But I'll just go with my number 5. I bet you will not see this coming. Ooh. It's out of left field. Yeah. It's the scene towards the end of Grease when Danny races against the leader of the Scorpions to this is when he puts Grease Lightning to the test, and it's such a fun part of the movie. So I put that on here. You are right. I did not see that one coming at all. It's kind of lame, but it's such a fun part of the movie. So, I did not see that on any lists anywhere of best car scenes in cinematic history, but it was one that I thought of right away. I was oh, I always liked this part. So you didn't see it on any top car chase scenes list, and you decided to ignore that advice and call an audible? Yep. All right. Hey, this is my list. Living life on, it's your list. This is my list, not anyone else's. So that is true. I'm putting no one else would do Grease that. Lightning on here. All right. Plus, Danny wasn't even supposed to be driving it that day. Someone else was supposed to. So, come from behind. It's a real underdog story. It's a true underdog story right there. Yeah. All right. Number 4 was kind of tough for me too. I almost decided to do another tie, but I won't. Okay. Your list is just ties. It's 10 movies. 5A, 5B, 4A. It's 4B. Trey Wingo doing his power rankings for the NFL when it's 5A, B, C, D. Oh yeah, no. I did Terminator 2. Okay. With the motorcycle and truck chase scene when Arnie is trying to get John Connor on the little moped, and it takes place in the little trenched area. Yeah, that's just a great action movie in general with a great chase scene. So perfect. He comes in, sticks the landing on the motorcycle when he's dropping into the what am I trying to say? The channel. I know. I was trying to think of what it was called too, because it's because that's what they drive in Greece. I'm what is it? It's some irrigation channel, something. I don't know. Whatever, something like that. So, okay, very cool. That's your number 4? Yep. My number 4 is The French Connection. Like I said, it's, I love kind of the back and forth. It's he's up on the train platform. He, steals the vehicle. He's cutting in between, weaving through all this traffic. Gets out, goes up to the train platform. Oh, realizes it's not stopping. So he gets back in the car. So it's I like the kind of back and forth, and it's really cool that the camera perspective for a lot of it is from the front, the dashboard of the car. So, yeah, pretty compelling. Yeah, classic. There you go. My number 3 is, I didn't see this on too many lists either, but this is the one that I kind of immediately thought of, so kind of your Grease. Because I watched this movie all the time as a kid, and it's the final getaway chase in The Italian Job. Yeah. Okay. The 2003 version with Marky Mark and Charlize Theron. Yeah, I love this scene. They have the new Mini Coopers. Throughout the movie, you see them trying to practice their getaway, and then they have to call a huge audible at the end. I just love how there's 3 or 4 Mini Coopers just driving all over the place and doing all these crazy chase scenes, all that stuff. I do. I really like that final one. So that's what my number 3 is.
That was my honorable mention.
Oh, that was like the number 6 that you had? Okay.
Yeah. I feel like maybe it was a little cliche to pick that one, but yeah, I think it's a pretty entertaining scene, and it's, it's like they're in tunnels, and you've got helicopters, and you got people on motorcycles, and so it's like, it's more than just like one car going after another. So,
You got them blowing up the road and then covering it up with like a billboard or something, so people don't see it. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. So my number 3, you've already mentioned, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. It's great when, kid's on his little moped, the T-1000's in the semi. There's a lot of people, like, commandeering vehicles. I think maybe that's, like, part of what makes the car chases good, right?
You got
just,
Arnie
like, stealing
doing the sweet reload trick.
Yes.
He, like, spins the shotgun or the lever around and reloads the gun. That's awesome.
And, yeah, like, when it's such an iconic scene when the semi, like, blows up and Arnie and the kid are just, like, on the motorcycle, just like, yeah, just cool. What's up?
Yeah, what's up?
We're just driving away from this explosion.
What's up? I'm a giant robot sent to protect you.
Yeah. So, very good scene. So that was my number 3.
This is your number 3.
Yep.
Okay. My number 2, I had a tough time not having this at number 1.
Okay.
But it's the Paris chase scene from Bourne Identity. I
right.
really like this one.
Yeah.
Like, I really like it. I like it because...
I can't immediately picture it, so you'll have to...
We'll have to show it to you or watch it later. But I really like it because he's in kind of a shitty car, which is a little different than some other movies where they're like in these nice cars, or it's like any Bond movie, he's like in a really nice car. Or even like French Connection, you even say, oh, he stole a nice car. Like, yeah. He's in this like tiny shitty car that he even says at one point like it veers a little bit to the right, so he has to like compensate for that a little bit when he's doing this chase. But I also like how when he's driving around, like he doesn't know the city that well, so he's got like a map out and he's like looking at the map, planning his getaway at the same time, which I think is cool and like a little different than other ones. So yeah, I had a hard time not having that number 1, but I really like the Paris chase scene from the first Bourne movie, the Bourne Identity.
First one.
Yeah.
All right, nice. I saw a number of Bourne like chase.
Yeah, there's
scenes.
multiple. There's at least 1 or 2 chase scenes in each Bourne movie. So
yeah. Cool. My number 2, I feel like people might not think of right away, but was one that was really entertaining to me is The Dark Knight. When they got Harvey Dent in the SWAT car and the Joker like has the semi.
That is a good one.
Like he's
it says slaughterhouse, but he makes it say, or no, it says something else.
It says laughter, but
and he makes it
sprays,
slaughter.
paints, an S.
Clever.
Yep, very clever.
Clever guy. That's why he's the Joker.
Good one. But yeah, so it's like he's got like rocket launchers and stuff he's trying to launch at like the SWAT car, and Batman comes in and his Batmobile's totally destroyed, so then he like ejects out of it with his Bat Pod motorcycle thing.
The Bat Pod. Yep.
And Joker's like, he's got all these tripwires set up, so the police helicopters are down, and he's chuckling, and then of course that's when Batman sets the other wire traps and boom, flips the semi completely on its end.
It's got that flip
So
the
cool.
semi trope that was going
cool.
on in the 2000s.
Yep. So, rewatching that scene like made me like it even more. I was like, I remember that being pretty good. Let me watch this again. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this is really good. Mm-hmm. So that's my number 2, Dark Knight.
It's a good one.
Thanks.
It's a great one. My number 1. And I have it because the entire movie is a chase scene, is Mad Max Fury Road.
Nice.
It's just the entire movie is chase scene, giant chase scene for the best action movie ever made.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
That's my number 1.
Yeah, I love that movie. Yep. It's awesome.
So good.
What are some parts you love about it?
Every time I watch it, I like it more. The first time I watched it, I was like, what the fuck are you showing me? Like, this is messed up. But, like, even by the end of the movie, I'm like, okay, I think I kind of liked that. And every time that we've watched it since, I'm like, okay, like you can't help but watch it.
Mm-hmm.
It just like pulls you in. It's so entertaining, and I love that almost all of it is like practical, real. Like they built these vehicles. There's like real explosions and shit. Like it's not.
They built
CGI.
that guy playing the flame guitar.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's just oh yeah, it's so cool.
Him playing they got a guy playing the drums too. You know.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, just like each vehicle has its own little like weapon to it that they're trying to like, get the tanker back from Charlize that she took. So you got these people with like on these long like flexible poles, and so they're like swinging back and forth to try to launch themselves onto things, and it's like they're throwing flaming spears and shit. It's just like there's so much creativity to this like mad world. So fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Hard not to have that at number 1.
Agreed. That's why I got it there.
Yep. Good call.
Some honorable mentions. So Mad Max Fury Road is our number 1. The first Mad Max has an opening chase scene where the Knight Rider is like the guy they're chasing. That's kind of famous. Any Bond movie probably has a chase scene, or any of the other Jason Bourne movies. The movie Drive with Ryan Gosling has a kind of similar to Baby Driver. It has like an opening getaway scene, which is pretty cool.
See, yeah, those are 2 movies that Baby Driver and Drive I have not seen, but I would like to.
Yeah, they're good.
I'm like, I feel like, there's got to be stuff from those movies that I feel like I could put on here, but haven't seen them, so.
Gone in 60 Seconds has a good like ending car chase scene. And then a big one that neither of us had on our list, but it usually pops up on lists, is the freeway chase scene in The Matrix Reloaded, the second Matrix movie. That one is good. I think at this point it's not really it hasn't aged that well. You can tell some of the fake CG on that, and it's still good, but I just like these other ones more. So, but yeah, all right, that's been it. That's the list. That's what we got for you today.
Beautiful. What a tremendous episode.
Oh,
I
the most
do say
tremendous.
so myself.
Absolutely. It's been so tremendous. People better give us a 5-star rating in Apple Podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like as well. Follow us on our social media platforms, please. We are at Oscar Real Pod on Twitter and the Instagram.
The Instagram. Has anyone else noticed the first 3 episodes of The Last Dance, like Michael Jordan Bulls documentary? They're like brought to you by the Facebook company.
Yeah, that was in like the first
like
2,
the
and
first
I think
2
they
episodes.
realized how dumb
Like,
that
what
was.
the
They
hell?
changed it to Facebook.
Sidetrack.
afterwards. Yep.
Maybe this episode's not good any
Squirrel.
longer.
They killed it.
Done.
We're donezo. Burned us to the ground. So yeah, next week we've got, or not next week, but next episode we've got 1987, which is The Last Emperor. We think we're going to do the Real Justice Against Broadcast News for that. We probably will. The other option's Fatal Attraction, but we'll probably do Broadcast News. So yeah. Do you have anything else?
Stay tuned for our classic review of A Clockwork Orange. I think you'll like that as well.
Yep. Stay
If our Real Justice kind of intrigued you, if you haven't seen it, check that one out. It's a good listen.
Yep, it's a very interesting movie, so even if you do listen to our episode, I would still recommend watching it, because it's a crazy movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, this has been Matt and Haley on the Oscar Reel Movie Podcast.